Over my 30 years in real estate, I've become a huge advocate for ADUs. They used to be called in-law apartments or accessory apartments. Today, they're known as additional dwelling units, but it's all the same thing. When done correctly, an ADU that is well designed, thought out, and of course up to code so everything's safe, have huge benefits for both the owners and tenants. Now, first, when people are looking for a small unit, they quickly learn they're hard to find. Now, why is this? Because the housing stock in Boston, in our area, well, it's like me, old. Most homes were built 75 to 100 years ago. And at that time, no one needed a one-bedroom apartment. You graduated from school, got married and had kids. So there are a lot of 2 and 3 bedrooms available, but very few studios or 1 bedrooms. Today, people aren't getting married until they're at least 30. They're not having kids until they're 35. So you can see how ADUs will fill a huge void and a need for our community. Now, for the owners, these ADUs provides much needed income for empty nesters, retirees on a fixed income, or even some homeowners that may have lost a partner. It's not uncommon to see a homeowner that is what we call house rich and cash poor. They have a tremendous amount of equity in their home, but the bank account's hurting a little bit. The cost of creating one of these units, an ADU, may seem high at first. However, they usually pay for themselves in less than 3 to 5 years. Now, if we look beyond the financial benefits, they create a sense of community. That tenant that's living there may help take out the trash to the curb, do some snow shoveling, or other household chores. Not to mention, it's simply comforting for that owner to know somebody's around. For many years, the illegal in-law, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more, was a third rail for local politicians. In fact, when I interviewed Mayor Cohen on this very show, in my pre-interview we talked about the things I wanted to cover, the subjects, and I mentioned in-law apartments. Mayor Cohen paused and looked at me and said, "You can ask." That was confirmation for me that he did not want to talk about it. And I said, listen, I'm Mike Spur, I'm not Mike Wallace. So, on Groundhog Day, February 2nd of next year, Massachusetts will implement, it will go into effect, a state law that allows ADUs by right for single-family homes. And my next guest is going to tell us a lot more about it. On this episode of the Real Estate Forum, I'm joined by Audrey Hedinger of the Massachusetts Association of Realtors. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, what you went to school.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up here in Massachusetts in Harvard, Mass, the small town, not the college, which it's typically confused with. I've lived here my whole life. I left briefly to go up to college at the University of New Hampshire, where I studied political science.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a great time. I graduated.
UNH is the Wildcats?
Yes, we are the Wildcats in Durham, New Hampshire. So I studied political science there. I focused my time on building campaigns and advocacy around the state in regards to politics.
Cool.
I graduated in 2021, and once I left college and began looking for housing, rental housing, I realized how absolutely insane prices are these days.
Yes.
And that really helped spark my interest in the real estate business.
Housing
as a whole.
It has a huge impact on every aspect of our society. And I think the whole country is going through a crisis right now. When you see it being brought up in campaigns for president, it's a serious issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really touches every sector and it impacts everybody's lives. So it was such an important topic. that was impacting my life as well, that I became very interested in advocacy surrounding real estate and housing protection and private property rights. And so that led me to the Massachusetts Association of Realtors, where I've been for about 2 years now.
Awesome. So on this episode, we're going to talk about ADUs, or additional dwelling units, formerly in-law apartments, this type of thing. And tell us a little bit about how that came to fruition, that the new law that's coming to play.
Yeah, absolutely. So that law is a policy initiative that's included in the Housing Bond Bill. Maura Healey, our governor, her housing bond bill that was passed early this August, this past summer. And ADUs have been identified as one aspect that we can tackle the housing crisis with. So the Healey administration estimates that ADUs could produce up to 8,000 to 10,000 units over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, now that they've been legalized by right in all single-family zoning districts across the state. And they can look several different ways as well to fit multiple different properties. So you mentioned...
Say more about that. You said they can look different. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be a basement apartment that you can't even really see from the outside. Or
I've in my career, it's not uncommon that somebody will have a walkout finished basement in the back of the house, maybe even sliding doors, that could easily become an ADU.
Yeah, absolutely. It is just required that they have a separate entrance from the primary dwelling, but a basement conversion or a garage conversion is one easy way to add an extra unit or property onto your already existing property. They also could be detached, so a completely separate new structure, or a separated garage could be converted into an ADU. So they really could go a lot of different ways.
We recently had a situation with an owner who took a 2-car brick garage, and it became her music studio where she was teaching, and now it's actually an ADU.
Oh, wow.
So I've seen a lot of different aspects of this. And now, before it didn't have a full stove, but now she can have a full stove in there. And the market for an ADU is really strong. The small units, $1,700, $1,800 is not unheard of.
Yeah.
So there's a demand for them.
There's a huge demand for them. I mentioned earlier, recent college grads looking to move back into their home states or hometowns that are unable to find a normal unit within their budget. So that's an option for them. It's also an option for disabled family members to live nearby but still have that sense of independent living in their own home to take care of. Or for elderly people that just want to age in place and stay in their community. So there really are a lot of different solutions that could come from ADUs.
We had another client who had a really large Victorian. I mean, it was probably 8 to 10 rooms. And again, I've seen some ADUs where this big old Victorian, when they were originally constructed, the top floor was servants' quarters. And there was a back stairway down to the kitchen. You came into the home and there was a grand staircase, but there was also another staircase, and that was turned into an ADU, the 3rd floor. So there are a lot of different options for this.
Yeah, absolutely there are. And there are options that allow neighborhoods to still keep their characteristics and what draws people to small towns.
Sure.
ADUs still can fit into that picture quite nicely.
Now, how big can an ADU be? I mean, you said there can be a separate structure. I mean, can somebody put a small house? I mean, what's the limit?
So there are guidelines on sizes for ADUs in the housing bond bill. So that is either going to be up to 900 square feet or half of your property, so the primary dwelling's
Okay.
square footage. So if you have a 1,600 square foot
Whatever
home,
is larger.
yes, then you
But
could
the limit's
only,
basically 900 square feet. But
correct.
that's still a good size. It's a small one-bedroom, a small two-bedroom or a large one-bedroom apartment.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Now, does it have to be owner-occupied? Is that a requirement?
No, it does not, and that is something that's new within this policy. There's no owner occupancy requirement
That's great.
in either the primary dwelling or the ADU, and that will be across all municipalities in the state.
Because here in Newton, a few years ago, they had an ADU by right for owner-occupied two families and single families, but the owner had to be there. So that's a little bit different. How would that work? Would that law supersede Newton's ordinances?
Correct, yes. So this new state law will supersede all local zoning policies regarding ADUs. Unless towns have a more flexible ADU bylaw, then that will be allowed as well.
Okay. So if I understand what you're saying, a single family that wasn't owner occupied in Newton could still have an ADU, but the two family would still be able to have an ADU if it was owner occupied.
Correct, yes,
Okay.
because that would go above and beyond what the housing bond bill lays out in their regulations.
That sounds good. It's interesting. Who do you think are going to be the most beneficial, get the most from this?
That is a great question because I feel like it could be a couple of different groups. One that comes to mind is maybe folks who have had children go off to college and they're looking to downsize, but they can't quite find a place. And now their kids are coming back to Massachusetts after finishing school and they're looking to buy a place. It creates a great solution for them because it allows the families to stay close together, their parents to generate a bit extra income from the additional property, and it allows their young adult children to be able to set down more roots in town. I think it's another great option for folks that have an elderly or a disabled family member that want that extra independence and sense of their own home, but can't quite have that.
Right. Now, what happens if it's a short-term rental? Are there, ways, or if somebody wants to do like an Airbnb? That's been sort of a controversial subject for some towns.
It has been, and the state is allowing towns to set certain regulations within reason in regards to this policy. So that will be up to the town whether or not they allow short-term rentals in ADU properties.
Okay, and a short-term rental, I'm basically talking about anything less than 30 days.
Correct.
Yeah. So a 6-month lease or a 3-month lease. We have clients that rent to traveling nurses, for instance, and they'll do a 3 or 6 month contract in a given area. So that would be fine.
Yes, that would be permissible.
Now, what if your neighbor says, no, I don't want this? You're putting additional structure or converting a garage, and your neighbor says, no, not in my backyard. How is that going to affect things?
Yeah, that's a great question. And luckily, the housing bond bill has a separate policy initiative that will cover that. So the housing bond bill's policy is to help get rid of those frivolous abutter appeals. And so the new update will require abutters to prove that this development is causing them direct, unique harm or injury directly caused by the development of the ADU. And once that goes to court, the judge could issue a bond to be paid by the abutter of up to $250,000. So quite a large sum.
Wow.
And that could be used to cover the developer's attorney fees if proven that this abutter appeal is just slowing down construction for no reason.
I see.
So as the ADUs are by right as well, abutter appeals should not be too prevalent, hopefully, with this new law.
Let's hope so. So, now, when it comes to ADUs and things being up to code, is that going to fall back on the city or municipality to inspect, or would the state have guidelines there?
So the state is still working on guidelines that will be published before February 2nd when the policy goes into effect across the state. But towns or municipalities are still allowed to require site plan review for all ADUs, as well as certain Title V regulations, as well as setbacks and height limits for
So
the
when you
ADUs.
mention Title V, you're talking about septic.
Yes.
Okay, so someone has a small house, a little cape, and they're going to add an ADU, and their septic isn't up to code. They have to change that.
Correct, yes.
I see.
So there are still regulations in place, so you can't just pop up an ADU right when you want one. Towns still have certain regulations that they can use to control the construction.
Gotcha. What if an owner wants to put in 2 or 3 ADUs?
Unfortunately, the law will only cover up to 1.
Okay.
I'm not sure of any town that allows multiple ADUs on a property.
Well, I have clients.
I'm sure.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But no, I'm sure the next step at that point would be a special permit from the given town or whatnot. You know, it's interesting because I actually had a client in a larger home, and it worked out where the homeowner, the empty nesters, created a smaller apartment for themselves and rented out the major portion of the home.
Wow.
So it sort of worked in reverse. So again, you can be creative in a number of different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. You could create a lot of creative housing solutions
Yes.
with ADUs. So this is really exciting, and the administration seems very optimistic with the units that can be produced. And this actually will apply to over half of the towns across the entire state. They'll gain this ability.
When you say half of the towns, why not all of them?
Sorry, I misspoke. Half of the houses in the entire state.
I'm like, what do you mean? Okay.
No, sorry, I misspoke
Right, okay.
there. Yeah, roughly just over 50% of all of the houses in the state
Are single families.
correct, and they're
Yes.
in the appropriate zoning district as well.
Good. So the current governor's administration, Governor Healy, her housing bill was really robust. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge housing bill that was passed in early August of this year. It is the largest housing bond bill in the history of Massachusetts. Housing bond bills are historically released every 5 years in the state, and this one covers about $5.16 billion
Wow.
in approved spending that can be used towards just over 50 policy initiatives that are included in the bill.
So say more about that. So you said $5+ billion. Now, is that for developers to borrow from, or homeowners, or how is that money allocated?
Yeah, so that money will be allocated, unfortunately not for developers or homeowners, but for within the state to give us the tools that we need to really help tackle the housing crisis that we're in. So another exciting initiative from this is the creation of the Office of Fair Housing.
Okay.
We're still waiting for some more details on that from the state. They're currently searching for their executive director for the new office. But yes, it is really unlocking our toolbox to
Okay.
solve this.
And again, let's talk a little bit more about that. Is this a new agency that's being created, or because we have fair housing laws that are in effect, and in my estimation, everybody pretty much abides by. But say more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Regulations and kind of guidelines surrounding what this office will tackle are still being developed. But it is essentially what you said, making sure that Massachusetts is really doing all that we can for our diverse
Population.
Yes, our diverse population that's constantly changing. Making sure that all of our needs are met to the best of the state's ability.
Okay. Now, is this funding going towards studies, or, I mean, tell me more about where the funding's going.
Yeah, so it will go mostly towards towns, I would say, through the form of grants and new opportunities that towns can use to unlock maybe unused land or unused
Okay.
or underutilized land or,
Yep.
or deteriorated buildings, giving them more grants and opportunities.
So a city municipality might have a condemned building or something, or an old school that they don't have the money to renovate and create housing, but with this initiative, it's there.
Yes, exactly. It's giving advocates and municipalities more tools and support from the state to solve our housing crisis.
Sounds good. Is any of that happen to be connected to the rail lines or anything like that?
Yeah, so we are seeing, as I'm sure you know, the new South Coast Rail down in southeastern Massachusetts.
In New Bedford and Fall River?
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Sure.
So we're looking for new ways to help expand housing opportunities in that area of the state, since we will be seeing hopefully commuters from that area coming up to Boston.
Sure.
So how can we help, New Bedford, those towns, unlock housing opportunities that they'll need as their population grows?
Absolutely. So I want to thank Audrey for joining us tonight, and thank you, our guests. And if you have any questions about ADUs or whatnot, feel free to reach out. And thanks again for joining us.
soul so weary. When troubles come and my heart burning deep, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. When I am on your shoulders, you raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
Got your personal references, high school diploma or equivalent?
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
It's right there.
Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.